Mid-sip of morning coffee, my hose sputtered like a flat tire, then ran bone-dry odd. Since I own the creek that irrigates this whole valley. It was a sweltering July 100 degrees for days, and my patch of Eden chickens, heirloom tomatoes, and all were dependent upon the spring-fed stream meandering past my cabin. My land was just outside manicured reclining grip of shady oaks and HOA, so pretentious its name sounded like a candle scent. For 7 years I'd lived peacefully on this plot. My grandpa left me evading the inquisitive retirees and lawn Nazis to either side. That peace was destroyed when Diane Voss, a ex-realtor, turned HOA despot, moved in 4 houses down the ridge. Diane's face was a sneer, permanent like she was always sniffing sour milk, and her attitude was colder than attack. She'd been fixated on my land, snapping photos over the fence, falsely reporting code violations, even scaling a ladder to pry into my compost pile, but severing my water line during a drought. That was a call to arms. I followed the hose up the slope, pounding heart. The earth soft and recently trenched. My irrigation struck a pipe connected to a filtered creek inlet, buried and inaccessible. Or at least, so I had convinced myself, the pipe had been cut clean, zip-tied with a fluorescent green tag violation, abated per court order of who I stormed toward the HOA edge, going past the ancient maple where my land started there. Diane stood, arms folded, sunglasses low, wiping her brow, sweating in her mint green cardigan like she posed for a How to Ruin Lives brochure. "What in the hell are you doing?" I barked. She did not blinks. "You have been overwatering on restriction as HOA president." "I am enforcing compliance," reminded her my land wasn't hers to play with. She smiled. "Water don't care about fences, Jake. You're giving a bad example." She strutted off like she'd just crave a debate, leaving me with a severed pipe and an anger seething hotter than the sun. Then it struck me like a thunderclap. Diane had no idea she'd cut the line supplied by my creek. The same creek that wandered through my yard, past my coop, under my bridge, and only then dripped into shady oaks nourishing their artificial turf. Rose beds and pudding green fantasies they had none. Well, no standby. Just sprinklers drinking my water. I knelt beside the busted pipe, a smile spreading up. For once I had the ace. If Diane wanted war over water, I'd be the general by evening. I'd fix the pipe with PVC and duct tape enough to save my garden, but the real battle was brewing. I excavated Grandpa Will's property records from a waterproof bag in my desk. Crisp deeds establishing 2 things. My boundary extended 12 feet beyond where the HOA assumed, and I held the springhead, and water rights notarized 80 years prior confirmed in 2003. When Dad passed away, these were not weak rules. They were solid law. I designated my line with red paint on 4 oak pillars and flagged the dirt trespassers would realize they'd crossed me along the pipe. I taped a notice to a water jar flows where it's needed next morning. I walked downstream, shady. Oaks was wilting. Lawns were fading sprinklers, ticking dry hoses. Limp Diane's cohorts huddled in her driveway, fanning themselves, gesturing uphill. She locked eyes with me. I waved that afternoon. A khaki-clad guy some HOA hired contract trespassed to check for unauthorized modifications to communal infrastructure. I requested a warrant. He had none. I told him to beat it or meet the sheriff. He bolted that night by lantern light. I practiced the creek's burble with a few adjustments. I could divert it whole. Hog legally on my land. No dam. No crime. Just a push to bypass their culvert. At dawn, knee-deep in the stream. I set to work the creek, bifurcated naturally near a rocky bend. Where I'd skipped stones as a kid, I piled flat stones and logs. Subtle enough to qualify as erosion control. By noon, the flow leaned left, curving through my woods away from shady oaks. Their lawns would be dust by week's end. I watched the HOA like a vulture. Their newsletter Drought Dose and Don'ts preached water-saving tips while their koi pond turned to sludge at the diner. A resident moaned about shriveled tulips. Diane hadn't faced me since the pipe, but she was scheming. I checked my markers daily, hid a trail cam in a birdhouse, and planted a sign where the creek branched to private spring. No HOA access. It was courteous, but deadly. In Diane's world, days later I caught a polo shirt snooper with a clipboard faking an examination of daisies. He said he was mapping flow patterns for a community group. No card, no agency, just a hasty departure. When I snapped his plate, they were constructing a case, but I'd already sent the county my deeds. GPS data and drone shots time-stamped and sealed. The HOA's panic intensified whispers. Hit town, one board member challenged Diane's power. Another stopped paying dues. I didn't gloat, but I didn't cry for them either. They'd shut off my water without notice. Consequences, bite, then footprints materialized by my rocks fresh from a midnight snoop. Someone had pushed a stone. I escalated the anti-motion sprinklers attached to my barn's tank, filled with garlic oil and skunk spray. Safe but odious at 2 a.m., they activated footage displayed Diane's toady, a smug fellow, and loafers wet and flailing in mud, cursing as he ran away. I laughed until my sides ached, saving the clip for trespassing charges. Shady Oaks Creek was a trickle now. Their green-belted Desert Diane's vandalism town hall flopped when residents questioned her on digging rights. She evaded red-faced. I sipped lemonade on my porch deeds, ready for the county. If necessary, the real power was silence, letting their pressure cook by sundown. I stood in my orchard, the creeks rerouted, sparkling through peach trees. Deer drank, nearby birds sang peace wasn't victory yet, but it was mine. The heat increased, and Shady Oaks lawns turned to ash. Their newsletter pleaded for emergency water trucks. I discovered deeper boot prints near my cam. Diane and a plumber conspiring. 2 days later, I apprehended the plumber knee-deep, forcing the flow back. My phone recorded. As I insisted on his permit, he mumbled environmental regulation, then ran. When I said the sheriff, I uploaded the video online. Saving my tomatoes. It went viral. Residents cheered. That's Nate's Creek. Diane's lost her mind. Sheriff Boone came by boots, scuffed mustache. Thick. I took him through the whole thing. Footage, maps, deeds, he made copies, vowing to alert the HOA. One more prank, he said. And Diane got fined. I installed cams, hung reflective CDs to scare night intruders, and upgraded my sprinkler with fish emulsion and peppermint oil. Days later, it nailed one of Diane's thugs, who rolled down the hill, causing word to spread. The general store was abuzz with people purchasing me coffee for the tale. Diane made a county complaint, stating I stockpiled resources. I responded with my packet maps, rights videos. The clerk laughed, filing it. Diane's HOA meeting bombed. Only 3 showed up. 1 quit. Another waved my video, asking questions. Her reign was ending. I retained a pro surveyor out of county drones, satellites, the works. Their report was bulletproof. The creek was mine. Rerouted legally, I laminated it, posting it by the creek with a sign, no unauthorized access. Violators recorded, possibly sprayed. Diane marched up Sunday demanding a civil talk. I said, civility died when she cut my pipe. She hinted at water sharing, but I held firm. Trust was gone. Her perfect bun was fraying, her stride weak. She was sinking. The county's ruling arrived, gold sealed, confirming my exclusive rights. I posted copies everywhere, gate barn, HOA bulletin board, with a note, learn something shady. Oaks chat exploded. Diane's temporary ruling lie flopped when the water district exposed their mooching sprinklers. Diane's lawsuit vote failed. 4 of 7 members bailed. A resident suggested an apology. Diane stormed out. Their lawns were dead. 1 ladies' green paint job melted. The environmental board rejected Diane's complant. No jurisdiction. She sent a flowery letter begging for a deal. I didn't reply. She wanted control, not peace. An HOA consultant called Czar, escaping, calling their lawns negligent. Diane spun it as green, but nobody bought it. My lush garden mocked their dust. A news crew filmed my creek deeds and signs, airing a calm expose. Comments roasted Diane. Never mess with a farmer. She was ousted as president, replaced by Mr. Ellis, a quiet ex-principal. He sent a respectful letter. I replied with the ruling clear as day. I finished rerouting the creek days, with a backhoe stone-lined looping via my orchard to a marsh distant from Shady Oaks, no longer free water. It wasn't not revenge, it was balance. Diane observed from a distance. Quiet weeks later, my property flourished, peaches, heavy bees buzzing. I constructed an underground watering system, solar-timed nourishment every path at the market. People were amazed at my crop. Shady Oaks converted to sagebrush and gravel. Truthful, now not artificial. Diane relocated away. Quiet, a magazine published my article for pages. No heroes or villains. Just truth. Ellis requested a creek tour for residents. I complied, except Diane. They learned, listened, healed. One said, "We're just borrowing this land." I nodded. It keeps score at dusk on my bench, by the creek carved with "Let it flow." I sat with my dog, Scout old but loyal. Coyotes howled, stars blinked, the water sang, "Steady mine." Peace wasn't given, it was fought for, earned, and sweeter for.